all this talk about Russia bad, when Russia is bad, in this case specifically, it's given a free pass. I want to close with an important lawsuit we filed about a man you probably don't know anything about, but I think it's important you know. We sued the State Department for records related to the imprisonment of a U.S. citizen, James Vincent Wilgus, in Russia. We filed the lawsuit against the State Department for all records related to why the department has not issued a wrongful detention designation for Jimmy Wilgus, a U.S. citizen sentenced to 12.5 years in a Russian penal colony on allegedly false charges based on a forced confession and fabricated evidence. Now, he's not the only American over there, but hasn't been designated as a wrongfully detained person by the State Department. And you can imagine his family, they're beside themselves because they're worried he's going to die over there. I mean, I read a piece, there was an op-ed, I think it's linked in our press release, guys. If you go down, you can pull it up from the New York Post. We referenced the op-ed at the end of the press release. You can pull that up separately. I'll get to that in a bit. On November 7th, 2016, so he's already been in jail for a long time. And jail is a nice way of putting it. Wilgus, an American musician living in Russia with his Russian wife, was arrested and charged with indecent exposure in an area in Russia that Wilgus' family said he had never visited, according to a March 31st, 2023 report by CBS's local affiliate here in Washington, D.C. So we've asked for records about the designation of Wilgus' detention as wrongful as defined by the Robert Levinson Hostage Recovery and Hostage Taking Accountability Act and all related communications. So obviously, unless this law is triggered, it's going to be harder to get him out. And we want to know, and certainly the family wants to know, and they're very grateful for this lawsuit, you can be sure, why the government's kind of been sitting on this. I mean, for all this talk about Russia bad, when Russia is bad, in this case specifically, it's given a free pass. The CBS News report reports the following. Jimmy Wilgus, a musician from New Jersey, was in Russia in 2016 working on a movie soundtrack with a Russian film director when he was ambushed and thrown into a van. His parents, Jim and Bella Wilgus, say their son was helping his stepdaughter get into a taxi just moments before he was grabbed. The family say Jimmy was forced to sign a confession papers for a crime he did not commit. The family says witnesses testified claiming Jimmy committed a crime in an area of Russia he had never even visited. Jimmy Wilgus was sentenced to 12 years in prison after a reportedly closed-door trial where his mother claims the U.S. Embassy was not even allowed to attend. He's being held in IK-17, a penal colony in Mordovia, Russia. According to Radio Free Europe, since Wilgus was in prison, there reportedly have been at least 9 other Americans detained by Russia and 2 notable prisoner swaps between the United States and Russia involving Americans detained well after his imprisonment. According to the report, there are discussions about other prisoner swaps. However, Wilgus is not among those mentioned. Now, Wilgus' family in an op-ed writes the following. I don't know if we've been able to bring up the op-ed. Do we have it yet? We're proud to say IK-17 has failed to break Jimmy's spirit and will, but it has destroyed his health. He now suffers from a spinal issue, osteochondrosis, as well as a failing liver and hypertension that wasn't present prior to his incarceration. I mean, so this guy's going to die. I mean, that's how I read this. And that's why the family, I'm sure, is desperate to get him out and get better attention to him. Jimmy Wilgus, who may be very well die in captivity in a Russian prison, deserves support from the State Department, and the State Department's refusal to turn over records about the agency's handling of Wilgus's case is concerning, to say the least. So, you know, these are one of these cases that is maybe not a big case in the greater scheme of things, but I think it's important. And I'm pleased that Judicial Watch is able to help the Wilgus family in this regard with this lawsuit that we filed separately for ourselves, because we want to know what's going on about this American citizen trapped in Russia, held up in the Russia penal colony. And where's our State Department? And this began years ago. Still no action. So pray for Mr. Wilgus, pray for his family, and hopefully we get some documents, and hopefully the mere request and lawsuit for documents may spur action from the State Department to provide him the designation that elevates his status and at least puts him in the discussion points publicly about the release of American, what I would call hostages there, because that's essentially what's happening. The Russians are taking hostages in order to get some of their bad guys out here that the U.S. has detained, not only here in the United States, but over in Europe, because Putin sends bad guys out to do bad work, either to kill people, spy improperly, other things like that. So it's an important little case, and I hope we get some justice here for the family. And I'm sure you do as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.